All right, so we're diving into the world of a helmsman. You've been digging into some RoleCatcher guides on this, and to
hmm
be honest, so have I. It's a lot more interesting than I thought.
Yeah, forget sipping coffee on a calm ocean. This is hands-on stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when I say helmsman, I think steering the ship, but it sounds like it's a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not just steering. We're talking like second in command on inland waterways, rivers, lakes, all that.
Okay, so break it down for me. When we say helmsman, what are we really talking about? What do they actually do?
So think of them as the linchpin of the vessel. They're responsible for everyone on board and the ship itself. Safety is priority number one. And because these waterways can get pretty congested, they're also in charge of mooring.
Mooring. See, that's one of those
Right.
terms I always hear but never totally get.
Sure. So imagine you're trying to bring like a massive boat alongside a dock. Sometimes you're in tight spaces or there's a current trying to push you off course. So you're working with ropes knots, often coordinating with the crew to make sure it's a clean, secure stop. It's more involved than it sounds.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Definitely not just tossing a rope over a post. So beyond mooring, what else falls under a helmsman's responsibilities?
Maintenance is a big one. They've got to be comfortable with engine mechanics, deck equipment, you name it. They also need to be up on all the maritime regulations and safety procedures. Plus, those top-notch navigation skills are a must.
Wow, it's like they're a jack of all trades on the water. The guides you sent over painted a pretty vivid picture of what their day-to-day looks like. We're talking long hours, sometimes 12-hour shifts, often on a rotating schedule. Weekends, holidays, those might be work days too.
It's demanding for sure. You're also dealing with the elements, scorching sun, 1 minute torrential downpour the next. You've got to be physically and mentally ready for anything.
Definitely not your average desk job. But I imagine the rewards are pretty unique too.
Absolutely. Think about the places you'd see the camaraderie of a tight-knit crew, the satisfaction of navigating a challenging stretch of river. The guides really highlighted that sense of accomplishment that comes with this role. It's not for everyone, but for the right person, it's incredibly rewarding.
You mentioned navigating those challenging stretches of river. One thing that stood out in these guides was the potential for unexpected situations. Let's say you're a helmsman and suddenly you're dealing with a microburst on a narrow channel. How do you even begin to handle that?
That's a great example, and actually the guides touch on this. They emphasize that a good helmsman is always thinking ahead, anticipating how weather currents, even the type of cargo on board, might impact the vessel's handling. So in a microburst situation, you're dealing with these sudden, powerful winds that can really push a vessel off course. A skilled helmsman would adjust their speed, maybe even use the engine's power to counteract the wind, all while keeping a cool head and communicating clearly with the crew.
Wow, that sounds intense. It really highlights how much responsibility rests on their shoulders. It's not just about knowing how to steer, it's about making those split-second decisions under pressure.
Exactly. And that's where experience along with the right training is crucial. Speaking of training, you've got to have specific certifications to even get started in this field, right?
Yeah, you can't just waltz onto a vessel and take the helm. The guides specifically mention the Inland Waters Helmsman Certificate. It's a must-have. It covers everything from rules of the road, like imagine a nautical highway system, to understanding buoys, lights, and signals.
So it's not just about physically steering the boat. You need to know how to read the waterways themselves.
Exactly. And then there's the Radar Observer Certificate. These days, a lot of vessels are equipped with radar for navigating in low visibility, like fog. That certification shows you can interpret those radar images, identify potential hazards, and make the right call based on what you're seeing. Okay, so that makes total sense. Even on inland waterways, technology plays a huge role. So let's say you've got the certifications, you're ready to climb that career ladder. Where do you even begin?
Well, the guides lay out a pretty clear progression. You typically start as an entry-level helmsman. You're basically an apprentice at that point, learning the ropes, assisting the senior crew, getting a feel for the rhythm of life on board. One of the profiles even talked about how important attention to detail is for someone just starting out, like meticulously checking mooring lines or being super observant during engine room checks.
It sounds like even at that early stage, you're building this foundation of skills that are crucial for a helmsman.
Absolutely. And as you gain more experience, you might move up to junior helmsman. You'd start taking on more responsibility at that point. The guides mention you might even get to do some steering under supervision, get a feel for how to handle the vessel in different conditions.
Yeah, I loved how one of the junior helmsman profiles talked about using their downtime to study more advanced navigation techniques. It seems like a career that really requires you to constantly be learning, always wanting to expand your knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. The maritime industry is always evolving. New technologies, new regulations. Speaking of which, these guides have got me thinking about those autonomous navigation systems we touched on earlier. I wonder how those are going to impact a helmsman's role down the line.
Right, that's a whole other layer. It's like the future of being a helmsman might involve less hands-on steering and more overseeing these automated systems, making sure everything's running smoothly.
Exactly. That's why staying updated is so crucial. Imagine needing to troubleshoot a software glitch in the middle of a busy channel.
That almost sounds like a blend of traditional seafaring knowledge and computer programming. Instead of just muscle memory future, helmsmen might need a whole new set of tech skills.
It's wild, right? And it gets even more interesting when you think about the jump to roles like maritime pilot or deck officer.
Oh, right. The guides did mention those as potential career paths for experienced helmsmen. What kind of skills would translate well to those roles? What would someone take with them from being a helmsman? So we're talking about the skills you hone as a helmsman and how they could actually set you up for some pretty impressive roles down the line.
Yeah.
Seems like maritime pilot was a big one that stood out in the guides.
Yeah, it's like a natural progression. You've spent years mastering these inland waterways, understanding the currents, the maneuvers. Maritime pilots basically take that expertise to a whole other level. They're the ones guiding those massive ships through harbors and channels, often in really challenging conditions.
So they go from the rivers and lakes to the open ocean.
Well, not always open ocean. Sometimes it's those really narrow channels leading into ports.
Right, of course. So it's like the helmsman becomes this ultimate guide, using their knowledge to make sure those huge ships are moving safely.
Yeah,
And the guys mentioned that precision is key for pilots, which is something a helmsman would have down to a science.
totally. And it's not just the technical skills either. Think about the pressure of making those split-second decisions in tight quarters with millions of dollars worth of cargo riding on it. A seasoned helmsman would be ready for that kind of responsibility.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It really highlights how valuable that hands-on experience is, dealing with those unpredictable situations out on the water. Now, for those who might be looking for more of a leadership role, the guides also mentioned deck officer as a possibility. What does a deck officer do exactly?
They're basically in charge of everything happening on the deck of a vessel. Think managing cargo, making sure everyone's following safety procedures, supervising crew members, all things that a helmsman would already have a ton of experience with.
So it's taking those leadership skills you developed as a senior helmsman and scaling them up. Now you're not just focused on navigation, you're overseeing a whole team and making sure things run smoothly.
Exactly. And then, of course, for someone with real ambition, there's always the ultimate goal, ship captain.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now that's a title that carries some weight. You're not just navigating the ship, you're responsible for everyone on board, making the tough calls, handling whatever the sea throws your way.
It's the top leadership role in the maritime world. The guides made it clear that it's a long and demanding journey to get there. But a solid foundation as a helmsman combined with the right training and experience could definitely set someone on that path.
It's amazing to think that starting as a helmsman could lead to so many different opportunities within the maritime industry. It really speaks to how versatile those skills are that you're developing.
It's true. And even if someone decides to pursue a career that takes them off the deck of a ship, think about the skills you're picking up along the way. Problem solving under pressure, critical thinking, spatial awareness, attention to detail. Those are valuable in a ton of different fields.
That's such a good point. It's like
Yeah.
you're not just learning a job, you're building this whole toolkit of skills that could be applied in so many ways. You could go from navigating rivers to managing logistics or even something totally different.
Exactly. The possibilities really are endless.
Well, this has been eye-opening to say the least. We went from thinking about helmsmen as just steering a ship to uncovering this whole world of opportunity and a career path that's constantly changing. So for our listener out there who's been checking out these RoleCatcher guides, what's the one thing you hope they take away from our deep dive today?
I'd say this. Being a helmsman is about way more than just knowing your port from your starboard. It's a demanding but incredibly rewarding career that requires a unique mix of technical know-how leadership skills and a genuine love for the water. And as technology keeps changing the industry, who knows what exciting opportunities are out there for those who are willing to take the helm.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. As these autonomous systems become more common, how might the role of the helmsman continue to evolve? What new skills will be needed to navigate the ships of the future? Keep those questions in mind as you chart your own course. Until next time, keep exploring and stay curious.